And so the way we do this is we have 4 different covers that we will go through. 3, we are going to look at individual species, find the 3 individual species that consist of most of the cover in our quadrat, and then our 4th cover measurement is just the total herbaceous cover.
So clearly this is not a plot or on CSU's campus, but I wanted to show you all an example of what we would do at a quadrat within our plots. So this is the visual estimation cover. So what we're gonna do, as Tori explained, is find the top 3 species within this quadrat and estimate their percent cover, and then look at the total vegetation within this quadrat and get a total vegetation cover. So now Anthony and I are going to get some visual estimation of what's going on in this quadrat. So when we take a look, it's like mostly this one grass that we still need to identify, and it has a few pieces of a forb that's also in here. So the way we're going to do this is first parse out that forb and what percentage we think of the quadrat is that, and then we can kind of like subtract that from the quadrat and see what is the grass covering after that. So starting with that smaller species first and then going up to the bigger species can kind of help us get that visual estimation. Sometimes you have almost like an equal amount of species within the quadrat. So maybe you start with one species and you're like, this is my top percentage of species. But then you start calculating another species and you realize, wait a second, this is actually my top percentage of another species. So whichever way really works for you, but we're going to start by doing the smallest species first and then working our way upward.
So I see we have a little bit of these guys, so
yeah,
probably around that, another one, probably around 3%.
I think so, yeah, because this is probably about a percentage. I would say like this plus this equals that this, that's a percentage. I think this is probably a little bit of percentage too. And then there's a couple like tiny leaves, so I think we should go with about 3% for this guy.
Okay.
So we've decided that the Malva neglecta, which is the forb we were looking at in the previous video, the total cover of that is about 3% of the quadrat. So now we're going to move on to our other species. And as Anthony and I were scanning this quadrat, we realized that there's only one other species in this quadrat, and it's this grass. So we're going to identify this grass and then try to calculate the total or the percent cover of that grass in the quadrat.
Okay, so we're looking at this grass and it's taking up most of this quad. Maybe we can count this bare soil right here is around 2%.
Mm-hmm.
And that plus this plant right here probably gets around 5%. So that would make
The rest
this
of
grass
this.
95%.
Yeah, because it's honestly like dominating most of the quadrat. I don't really see anywhere else that's like bare besides this. So I think it's just like subtracting that from like 100% plus that. Yeah, I'd say 95% of this quadrat is this grass, which we identified as Elymus smithii. So I think it's going to be 3% the Malva neglecta, 95% Elymus smithii, and then I don't even see a third species, do you?
No.
Okay. So Anthony and I, as we realized as we were looking at this quadrat, that there's really only 2 species here. There's not a third. If there was a third species, that's when we'd go into calculating the percentage of that. So we're going to put 0% as our third species cover. And then finally, we're going to go into total plant cover. So I think in total, it's going to be just the Malva neglecta and the grass. So if we add those together, that'd be 98% of the quadrat is going to be plant cover, which that makes sense because as Anthony and I were looking at the grasses, we noticed that there's really only 2% of the ground that's not covered in plants. So 98% is going to be our total plant cover.
we're just going to drop the pin flag at each foot along each transect, and then we're going to record the plant hit on the way down. Okay, so we're going to start doing our LPI for vegetation here. We're going to start on 46, same as the substrate. So I'm going to drop the pin flag, and you see here we're hitting this herbaceous species. I believe this is Heterotheca villosa, so that's our top hit. As you can see, we're really close to this carex right here, but since we're not touching it, it doesn't count and you wouldn't record it. You would only record things that the pin is touching on the way down. Now we're moving on to 47, you're gonna drop the pin. We're gonna record no plants for this one, no species. And 48, again, nothing. It's all just dead in there, nothing there. Okay, so here we have a shrub. See, I have a hit right here. It is touching the shrub. This is Cercocarpus montanus, or mountain mahogany. Now, we also have to take the shrub height, and here, for this protocol, we're measuring the height of the maximum height of the shrub. So we're not gonna measure it right where it hits. We're gonna measure this tallest branch over here to the nearest inch. So we're gonna do that right now, and it is 14 inches. So I'm gonna record that.